اللهم رب شهر رمضان، اللهم رب شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام، صل على محمد وآل محمد وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عامي هذا وفي كل عام، واغفر لي تلك الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا علام يا رحمن. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قدير، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي. عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه، وهو القادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يراه وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ظهير يعاضده، قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا الحمد لله وأذكره مسبحا سبحان الله. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. اللهم وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة من الخلق أجمعين. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعية إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا، يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به، وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا، واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله، وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا، وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شعثنا، واشعب به صدعنا، وارتق به فتقنا، وكثر به قلتنا، وأعزز به ذلتنا، وأغن به عائلنا، واقض به عن مغرمنا، واجبر به فقرنا، وسد به خلتنا، ويسر به عسرنا، وبيض به وجوهنا يا الله، وفك به أسرنا، وأنجح به طلبتنا، وأنجز به مواعيدنا، واستجب به دعوتنا، وأعطنا به سؤلنا، وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا، وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا، وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا، واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك، إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق، آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله، وغيبة إمامنا، وكثرة عدونا، وقلة عددنا، وشدة الفتن بنا، وتظاهر الزمان علينا، فصل على محمد وآله، وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله، وبضر تكشفه، ونصر تعزه، وسلطان حق تظهره، ورحمة منك تجللناها، وعافية منك تلبسناها، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم برحمتك فالصالحين فأدخلنا، وفي عليين فارفعنا، وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا، ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا، ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأخدمنا، ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فأطعمنا، ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا، وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام، وقتلا في سبيلك مع وليك، فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا، وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا، وبراءة من النار، وأمانا من العذاب فاكتب لنا، وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا، وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا، ومن الزقوم والضريع فلا تطعمنا، ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا، وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا، ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا، ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت، بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. آمين آمين. صل على محمد. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم، من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل، أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم، المشكور سعيهم، المغفور ذنوبهم، المكفر عن سيئاتهم، وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية، وتوسع في رزقي، وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك، ولا تستبدل بي غيري. آمين. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان، أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور. Remember your pass away friends, relatives. جزاكم الله خير. اللهم إنك قلت في كتابك المنزل: شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، فعظمت حرمة شهر رمضان بما أنزلت فيه من القرآن، وخصصته بليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. اللهم وهذه أيام شهر رمضان قد انقضت، ولياليه قد تصرمت، ما أسرعها، ولياليه قد تصرمت، وقد صرت يا إلهي منه إلى ما أنت أعلم به مني، وأحصى لعدده من الخلق أجمعين. فأسألك بما سألك به ملائكتك المقربون وأنبياؤك المرسلون وعبادك الصالحون، أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن تفك رقبتي من النار، وتدخلني الجنة برحمتك، وأن تتفضل علي بعفوك وكرمك، وتتقبل تقربي، وتستجيب دعائي، وتمن علي بالأمن يوم الخوف، وتمن علي بالأمن يوم الخوف من كل هول أعددته ليوم القيامة. إلهي، وأعوذ بوجهك الكريم وبجلالك العظيم أن تنقضي أيام شهر رمضان ولياليه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تؤاخذني به، أو خطيئة تريد أن تقتصها مني لم تغفرها لي. سيدي سيدي سيدي، أسألك يا لا إله إلا أنت، إذ لا إله إلا أنت، إن كنت رضيت عني في هذا الشهر يا الله فازداد عني رضاه، وإن لم تكن رضيت عني فمن الآن فارض عني، فمن الآن فارض عني يا أرحم الراحمين. يا الله يا أحد يا صمد، يا من لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد، يا ملين الحديد لداود عليه السلام، يا كاشف الضر والكرب العظام عن أيوب عليه السلام، أي مفرج هم يعقوب عليه السلام، أي منفس غم يوسف عليه السلام. صل على محمد وآل محمد كما أنت أهله أن تصلي عليهم أجمعين، وافعل بما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بما أنا أهله، ولا تفعل بما أنا أهله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. إلهي وقف السائلون ببابك، ولاذ الفقراء بجنابك، ووقفت سفينة المساكين على ساحل بحر جودك وكرمك، يرجون الجواز إلى ساحة رحمتك ونعمتك. إلهي إن كنت لا ترحم في هذا الشهر الشريف إلا من أخلص لك في صيامه وقيامه، فمن للمذنب المقصر إذا غرق في بحر ذنوبه وآثامه. إلهي إن كنت لا ترحم إلا المطيعين فمن للعاصين، وإن كنت لا تقبل إلا من العاملين فمن للمقصرين. إلهي ربح الصائمون وفاز القائمون ونجا المخلصون، ونحن عبيدك المذنبون، ونحن عبيدك المذنبون، فارحمنا برحمتك واعتقنا من النار بعفوك، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم أغن كل فقير، اللهم اشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم في كل ليلة من شهرنا هذا every night، اللهم في كل ليلة من شهرنا هذا رقاب يعتقها عفوك أو يهبها صفحك، فاجعل رقابنا من تلك الرقاب يا عزيز يا وهاب يا عزيز. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله الأطياب.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So I'm here. My name is Hussain. I'm a GP doctor in the NHS. I'm here on behalf of the Hyderi Health Committee. So I'm sure many of you were here for the previous talks. So the first talk we had on physical health prevention. So that was done by Brother Mohsen Shahr about preventing cardiovascular disease and changing our lifestyle, whether that's diet and exercise. We also had a second talk last week by Brother Safar Jarraj on mental health. And I'm here to fill in the pieces, fill in the gap, because of course we're made up of mind, body and soul. So I'm filling in the soul aspect, quite timely. So when we think about health, essentially there's three avenues that we often think about, whether it's physical, mental, or spiritual. Everyone always thinks about physical, because of course that's what we go to visit our GP doctor or go to the hospital for. I think since the COVID pandemic, we've been more realigned with the mental health aspect. But a very important avenue that Islam heavily specifies is and fulfills a need for is the spiritual aspect. So we often think of them as independent variables, as you can see on the slide. But in fact, they're all entirely interlinked. So there's no way of having pure well-being in the physical aspect without having well-being in the mental and spiritual, and vice versa for all the other avenues. So why am I here? Why am I talking about it on this very holy night, the last 10 nights of Shahr Ramadan? Is because essentially, why is health important? So health is important. There's a very famous hadith from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which states that take care of 5 things before 5. So as you can see, our youth before our old age, our health before sickness, our wealth before poverty, our free time before we are busy, and our life before our death. I think we can all agree that without our health, we're unable to function. Essentially, we can't do anything. We're unable to concentrate in our salah. we're unable to go to work, we're unable to care for our family, our loved ones, health is paramount. I'm sure we all know someone, or we have gone through ourselves when we've been unwell or sick. And if you speak to anyone and you ask them the question, if you were to give up all your wealth and everything for your health, would you not trade it up? And of course, undoubtedly, the answer would be yes. So with that in mind, of course, health is wealth. Health is one of the most important things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. And living a healthy life is part of Islamic teachings and is something that is extremely emphasized. And it can be and should be an act of worship. And I'll just very briefly just talk us through how it can be an act of worship. So there's a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam that states, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So what does this mean? This means that actions are in according to our intentions, and the hadith continues that we are rewarded based on our intentions. And there's a verse in the Holy Quran that says, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَكُمُ اللَّهُ بَاقٍ, which basically means whatever you have will end, and that which is with Allah is everlasting, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is limitless, He is everlasting. So how do we tie these two together? So we tie these two together because when we aim to have a more healthier lifestyle, whether it's health or anything in life, whether it's our work, our commute, our caring for our family, if we attach it to a godly intention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes an act of worship and it's something that will remain. So of course, when we talk about sickness and we talk about the three avenues, whether it's physical, of course we all know there's diabetes, there's cancer, there's heart conditions, there's strokes. And then the mental sickness, of course, is things like anxiety, low mood, OCD or previous traumas, and many more. And then there's the spiritual sicknesses, there's the spiritual diseases as well. This can include things like our ego, anger, stinginess, and so on. These are the things that we pray for on the nights of Qadr to help us, to help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure us from these illnesses. So what is the cure? So the Holy Quran states 3 times, not once, not twice, 3 times that the cure itself is the Quran. And we all become attached to the Quran in the month of Shahr Ramadan, but unfortunately we often leave it after the end of Shahr Ramadan. And if we realize the importance of the Holy Quran, that it itself is the cure, we wouldn't need to turn to other places. For the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all the verses, but essentially I'll go through it in English. So it is for those who believe, a guidance and a cure. What other avenues does Islam have to offer? Of course, Islam is a way of life. It's not just a religion, it's all-encompassing. I'm sure there's been times where we've all been worried about something, whether it's a mortgage payment, a health issue, family members, exams, anything. And the Quran clearly states, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَتْمَئِنَّ الْقُلُوبِ. Certainly, certainly, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest and tranquility. And I'm sure you've all heard of these apps and different journals like Headspace, Mind, or these gratitude journals. And the Quran has mentioned previously that the cure is in it itself. It's لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase you. The beauty about this verse is that it doesn't state what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase you in. That means Allah will increase you in everything. That is the importance of gratitude and shukr to Allah. And every Thursday night in Dua Kamel, if you help me out because my mouth is getting dry, it states, Ya man ismuhu wa dhikruhu. In Allah's name is the remedy, and in His remembrance is the cure. Everything is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now that we've gone through different types of sicknesses, why it's important, the cure itself, what do we do now? So if we look at the Quran, every time that there is belief mentioned, there is a call to action. In Surah Asr, I'm sure many of us recite in our salah, we say, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Except for those who believe and do good actions. Knowledge itself is absolutely useless unless we put it into action. We have to put into action all the fruits, all the seeds and fruits that we've labored for in the Shahr Ramadan. And unfortunately, or fortunately itself, another verse in the Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum. O you who believe, upon you is yourself. No one's going to take you there. No one's going to hold your hand. You yourself are accountable to yourself. Everyone knows what is good for them. You know, if you've had one samosa for iftar, you probably shouldn't have 2 or 3. If you've had a sugary drink, you probably shouldn't have another one on top of that or dessert on top of that. It's the simple things that we ourselves, if we hold ourselves accountable, we will be able to progress forward. And on the final verse that I'll mention, especially in these nights of Qadr, it's a very powerful verse, probably the root of all spirituality in Islam is Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara'u ila Allah. O mankind, you're in absolute poverty, absolute need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are unable to do anything or do anything without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. So in these nights of Qadr, pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help to get you out of these situations. So to summarize, essentially we've covered all the different types of areas we consider health: physical, spiritual and mental. And living a healthy life to rectify these issues is an act of worship if we tie it with the right intention. The Quran and dhikr is an all-encompassing cure. I'm not saying to dismiss what your doctor advises you or your counselor advises you, but it's something that we often forget when we are going through these ailments itself. And of course, now that we have this knowledge, the onus is on you yourself, each individual in this Shahr Ramadan, to make a change, because knowledge is useless without action. Just before I end, this is probably the biggest turnout that we've had the opportunity of speaking at. And I'm not sure if many are aware, but we've started a new Hyderi health committee or initiative. Alhamdulillah, before Shahr Ramadan, we had a resuscitation course, which is basically CPR. And inshallah, we plan on running another one before Muharram. So please watch out for the WhatsApp messages that will come soon. The second thing is that, inshallah, we plan on running a health screening day. I remember back in my day, maybe about 10 years ago, we used to all attend 26 Estreham Road for the health screening, and we plan on reinvigorating and revitalizing that so that people are able to monitor their basic health vitals, what to do about it. And then finally, inshallah, we will have further talks in upcoming, inshallah, on the Thursday nights. And just a reminder for those that haven't filled the census, it is very useful to fill it. You don't have to be in healthcare to fill in the census. We're trying to build a database to be able to strengthen the bonds in our community so that we are able to help each other with all aspects, no matter the vocation, no matter the work that you're in. Thank you for your time. Salawat.
Salawat bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. सलाम के चंद अशार। लहू बहा जो अली का
سر شکستہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے بطول روتی ہوئی آ گئی بقیہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے مدینے والوں میں اب کیا کروں یہاں رہ کر لحد کو چھوڑ دیا فاطمہ نے یہ کہہ کر صدائیں رونے کی آتی ہیں شہر کوفہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے بچانے آئی تھی اس وقت بھی میں روتی ہوئی گلے میں باندھی گئی تھی علی کی جب رسی ہاں تازیانے بھی کھائے تھے میں نے آدھا سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے تھا جیسا میرا علی کا بھی حال ایسا ہے شکستہ پہلو کی طرح ہی سر شکستہ ہے مصائب ایک ہی جیسے ملے ہے دنیا سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے ہاں یاد آئی جو زینب تو بولی یہ زہرا وہ بھول پائے گی کس طرح باپ کا چہرہ بچھڑ کے جیسے جیے گی وہ اپنے بابا سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے رکھا ہے ہاتھ جو پہلو پہ میں اٹھا لوں گی، حسین رویا تو سینے سے میں لگا لوں گی، وہ روئے دیکھ نہ جائے گا غم یہ زہرا سے، لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے، جنازہ دیکھ کے بابا کمر نہ جائے کہیں، جہاں پہ بیٹیاں بیٹھی ہیں بیٹھ جاؤ وہیں، یہ روئے فاطمہ کہتی تھی رو کے فضا سے، لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے، لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے، آیان کیسے وہ ذیشان اب لکھے منظر، اٹھا جنازہ تو زہرا پکاری رو رو کر، علی نے کیا کیا سہا ہے کہوں گی بابا سے، لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے، لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے، بطول روتی ہوئی آ گئی بقیہ سے، لہو بہا جو علی کا سر شکستہ سے،
صلوات پر محمد و آل محمد۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ Can we please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for Nargis by Nur Muhammad Walji? All the names displaying on the screens and for all marhumin, please. Surah Al-Barakat Al-Fatiha. Dua Shifa is requested for all Marid, please. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mudhtarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mudhtarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mudhtarra idha da'ahu yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But membership is now due for renewal. Please renew at either desk. As the nights get busier, the car park will be getting full. In order to help the mu'mineen, please try to carpool where possible and respect the instructions of the car parking volunteers when they try to help you. As we know, there is also tremendous reward for feeding iftar to those who are fasting. If you would like to contribute towards iftar or tabarruk, please speak to the desk or refer to the diary of events. Brothers, before we begin the majlis, I request to please stand up and come as close to the front as possible. At the same time, can we please welcome Sayyid Hussain Makke to the minbar with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers at the back, please stand up. Come as close to the front as possible to avoid any disruptions during the lecture. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم واكرمنا بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا من خزائن علومك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin tonight's majlis, especially on these holy nights, remembering Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, a very dear brother and teacher of mine, his mother is critically ill, and he requested for all of us to pray for her. So I would like to dedicate tonight's majlis to Sister Rabab Ja'far. May we please recite salawat and fatiha for her shifa, inshaAllah. When Imam Hussain alayhi salam was in Karbala, and he spoke again and again and again to the enemies of Allah, and he would remind them, how can you be praying your Dhuhr prayers, your Asr prayers, then come to attack us? How can you be praying your Fajr prayers, then come to attack us? Who are you praying to? Isn't it Allah? Who is Allah's messenger? Isn't it Muhammad ibn Abdullah, my grandfather? Don't you know who I am? We know who you are. Don't you know who my grandfather is? We know who your grandfather is. Don't you know who my mother is? We know who your mother is. Don't you know who my father is? We know who your father is, and that's why we're doing this. The people in that time despised Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, because he was a thorn in the eye for so many of them for so many years, that what happened in Karbala cannot be divorced from everything that happened since the beginning of the message. And when you understand Quraysh, when you understand the beginning of the message, and you understand the tribal friction and warfare, you'll understand Karbala so much more, and it begins to make sense why they despised Imam Ali alayhi salam. Because Imam Ali was from Quraysh, but he wasn't Qurayshi minded. He wasn't prejudiced. He was someone who stood constantly for justice. But we find that when Imam al-Hussein's blessed head was brought to Yazid in Damascus, and Yazid sat on his throne and was looking down at Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, and he poked the blessed lips of Abu Abdullah with a stick. He was smiling and he began to recite poetry. And he said, I wish my grandfather from Badr was here to see this day. That's what he said. That he's looking at Sayyidah Zainab, the daughter of Ali, and he has the head of the son of Ali, and he's saying, I finally sought revenge for you, grandfather. What happened in Badr is connected to what happened in Karbala. When the father of Hind, so the grandfather of Muawiyah, and the brother of Hind, so the uncle of Muawiyah, la'anhumullah, when all of them were the main fighters in Badr, and they were fighting on behalf of Abu Sufyan, and the Prophet sent forward Hamza and Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Imam Ali alayhi salam killed all of them. So he killed the grandfather of Muawiyah, he killed the uncle of Muawiyah, all before everything to do with Muawiyah. Muawiyah held a grudge from then, and Yazid held a grudge from then. The Bani Umayyah held a grudge from then. The Bani Umayyah found out why was the revelation given to Banu Hashim. Because you know Bani Umayyah and Banu Hashim, they're from the same branch. They're from the same family tree. Ultimately they are cousins. So Abu Sufyan and Rasulullah are cousins. They descend from Abd Munaf, Bani Umayyah and Banu Hashim. And Muawiyah and Ali ibn Abi Talib are cousins. And Yazid and Abu Abdullah are cousins. But for the Banu Hashim, they were going down the path of Allah. For the Bani Umayyah, they were going down the path of tribal warfare. They wanted revelation in their family. That's why when Saqifa happened, the first person who came to Imam Ali was who? Abu Sufyan. He said, what are they doing? How could they do this? Who do they think they are? These people, it's not for them. It's for the sons of Abd Munaf. He's seeing it as it's for us. Revelation's for us. Khilafah is not for them. Khilafah is for us. So say the word, Ya Ali, and I'll bring you 1,000 swords on the ground right now. And you know what Imam Ali replied? Innama anta munafiq. You are a hypocrite, because it has nothing to do with the sons of Abd Munaf. I didn't choose this. This isn't about me and you and the tribal warfare and the families. Allah decided. Khilafah is not for me and you to decide. Allah appointed this, and I'm going to follow Allah's rule. In fact, Ya Abu Sufyan, if I wanted, I don't need your 1,000 soldiers. I am from Quraysh as well. I can easily be Qurayshi minded and have them elect me. The whole reason they elected those people was because they were Qurayshi minded. They favored the Quraysh. They loved Quraysh. They just dressed it up with Islam afterwards, but they loved Quraysh. They favored Quraysh, whereas Imam Ali didn't care. Look at the companions of Ali, who they were. They are all slaves or outside of Quraysh. Ammar, slave. Salman, slave. Miqdad, slave. Abu Dhar from a faraway tribe. They are all from outside. So in terms of Iman, his companions were strong. In terms of the social arena, his companions were very weak. If someone killed Ammar, no one would care. If someone killed Miqdad, no one would care. He's a slave. But when you killed someone from Quraysh, it's a big deal. Quraysh were known as Ahlullah, people of God. You could not go to war against them, yet Imam Ali was killing them one by one. And they despised it. So Rasulullah had glory and victory. Ali ibn Abi Talib had glory and victory through the safe of Imam Ali. The sword of Imam Ali brought victory to Rasulullah, brought victory to Islam. The Prophet was able to spread the message. But the one who had to handle and take the retribution of all of this was Imam al-Hussain. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam was the one who they targeted for the glory of Rasulullah. Which is why it's mind-boggling when someone comes and says, as these people do, that was a political issue. Oh, when it comes to Karbala, we don't get involved in this too much because they are all Sahaba and we don't want to know, and Allah knows best what's going to happen. Ajib, how can you claim to love Rasulullah and when you see him, what are you going to say? Not only did you never cry for his grandson, you didn't feel his own pain, and he said, Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussain. Husayn's from me. He's from me. Ahabballah man ahabba Husayna. Allah, whoever loves Allah loves Abu Abdullah. How can you make it out that, what do they do with these hadiths? What do they do with these? They ignore them. Ajib. What worldview is it? I was thinking about it last night. I was sitting down, I was speaking with my brother about it. And I was thinking about it just in terms of my own child and grandchildren. I don't have grandchildren. I was imagining them. and thinking how much it would hurt my daughter if someone hurt her child, how that hurts me. And this is all hypothetical. How so for Rasulullah, who, when he had his sons, he called them, he didn't call them grandsons. He used to call them his sons. And it's significant. I want to mention why that's significant. His sons, he would say, this son, Sayyid Shababi Ahl al-Jannah. This son, Imam, Qama aw Qa'ada. He is like me. And then they do what they do to him, and then it's just normal. What do you say to him? This is the beloved of Allah, Habibullah. And Habibullah has a Habib. So what do you do with the Habib of Habibullah? You just, political issue, or it's something that's too messy or chaotic. We don't know. When the Imams were born, and Sayyidah Fatima would hand them over to Ali, Imam Ali alayhi salam would hold them in his arms, and she would say, will you name them? Both, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And the Imam would say, I won't name them before the Prophet arrives. And when Rasulullah arrives, he doesn't name them before Jibreel. Allah names them. He names them Shubbar wa Shubayr, because they are the names of the sons of Harun. And you, Ya Ali, are like Harun to Musa when it comes to you and I. So he names them that. Imam Ali says in Arabic, what are their names? Bilisan and Arabi. He goes, Hassan wa Hussein. And the Prophet, when he takes them, he says, Hatibni, give me my son. The reason why this is significant is because, you know, they used to mock Rasulullah because he never had a son. In that time in Arabia, if you had daughters, they were known not to be yours. Your daughter was just a vessel to bring more children for other tribes. Once she marries into another tribe, she's theirs. Whatever children she brings is for that tribe, it's not yours. That's how they understood in pre-Islamic Arabia. The only way you were able to continue your line, the only way you were able to grow your tribe was through having sons. And so, sons of your daughter were not your sons, they were the other tribe's sons. You wouldn't say they're my sons. At the very least, he didn't even say grandsons. He said, give me my son. Not only is he changing the way in which the people would view the children of being sons or daughters, not only is it changing the idea of what lineage means through his actions, not just his words. He's saying, give me my son, the son of my daughter is my son. Aside from that, he's not just saying it because they are the sons of his daughters. It's not nepotism. When he says, give me my son, he's saying this is the heir to my character, the heir to my teachings, the heir to my piety, the heir to the message. That's why he's my son. He continues after me. He leads after me. Not just simply the son of my daughter, like any son of any daughter. So it's significant the way that the Prophet dealt with the Imams when they were young. The same way he raised Imam Ali alayhi salam, he raised Imam al-Hassan, and he raised Imam al-Hussein. He raised them. He took them in and he raised them. But then people, they like to poke holes when it comes to the Ahlul Bayt. As much as they can, they want to criticize to make it seem like our worldview is the one that's been tampered with. And so they say, the Khulafa were great leaders. When it comes to Ali, it was his problem because he was not very flexible. The main criticism for Imam Ali alayhi salam is that he wasn't flexible. He wasn't pragmatic. He was not a people's person. Whereas the first was someone who could talk to people. He was able to make peace. He was able to find a bridge. The second, there was a calm situation when he was in charge. He was able to make peace. He was able to bring people together. The third, they say, it's either he was the same as the fourth Imam Ali alayhi salam, or maybe Ali is better than maybe the third, maybe. But definitely not first and second. Why? Because they were pragmatic people. And they were able to talk to people. Whereas Imam Ali was not pragmatic. Imam Ali, they say, was someone who was very unflexible and would always try to do the right thing even when it leads to war. And this is not correct. That's what they're saying. They're saying that the way he was led to the chaos. And the way that he was led to the problems. That he was a very good man, but he was not the man fit for politics. And that he says, they have a narration which they quote Ali as saying, I and my son Hussain were the same, but Hassan has his own way. Why? What do they mean? They say Hassan, alayhi salam, he was different than his father. Where his father was not pragmatic, Hassan was very pragmatic. Where his father was unflexible, Al-Hassan was willing to bend. That's why when his father would dress in clothes that were not fancy, Al-Hassan would dress in extravagant clothes. When his father would eat a loaf of bread, Al-Hassan would eat extravagant food. So Hassan had his own way, and Ali had his own way, and Ali and Hussain are like each other. Al-Hassan is different. That's why he goes and has this truce with Muawiyah, because he's pragmatic, because he's trying to create peace for people, whereas his father would never have done that. Whereas when Hussain comes back into the line, he's just like his father. Once again there is chaos. Once again there is a fight, because he's not willing to bend any way. He wants to go for what he believes is right, no matter what the price may be, and that's not pragmatic and not very politically savvy and aware. Now, we don't disagree that the Imam is very, very upon principle and justice, but we have a different worldview to how you're looking at the Imam. We don't look here as he is not politically savvy or pragmatic. And we don't believe that Imam al-Hassan is different to Abu Abdullah and different to Imam Ali alayhi salam. The view of the followers of Ahlul Bayt view the idea of Imama and the Isma, that the Imam is ma'soom, so that if you had all Imams in this room discussing an issue, they would not debate about it and they would not argue about it, because they are all from the same line. Because as the Imam tells us, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has a report that attributed to him where he says, أولنا محمد وآخرنا محمد وكلنا محمد صحيح وآله صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. What that means is we view this all as one line. That's why Sayyid Khamenei has that book called The 250-Year-Old Man, speaking about the Ahlul Bayt and all the Imams. 250-year-old man, as in the first 11 Imams spanning for 250 years, it's like one man in different situations and different circumstances, because they are all continuing what each one would have done. That we believe that Imam al-Hussain would have done the same thing that Imam al-Hassan would have done, and al-Hassan would have done the same thing that Imam al-Hussain would have done had the tables been turned, the same thing that Imam Ali did. We view it differently. That's why, my brothers, and this is a very important point and I hope it's understood, when the Prophet passes away, the line is cut for those who don't believe in Imama. Khalas. The message from the heavens is finished. Now they have to do ijtihad. Now they have to follow normal, fallible scholars. The problem is, all the hadiths were burned. All the books were burned. And this is accepted upon all denominations of Islam. This is a historical fact. After the Prophet passes away, they burn all the books. And hadith writing is forbidden for over a century. So, let's think about this very logically and clearly. Imagine right now, I said some hadiths to all of you, and you're not allowed to write it down. You can't take notes on your phone. You can never write it down. You can only memorize it at best, okay? And we grew up. We're not allowed to write it down ever. No one can write it down. In 50 years' time, you still haven't written it down based on the memory of what I said. Let's hope you all remember what I said in 50 years. Let's hope tomorrow you remember what I said. Imagine, what did I speak about 2 nights ago? Wallahi, I forgot. I don't remember what I talked about. But you're supposed to remember what I said. And I'm just a normal man. And then you have children. And then you teach them. And then they grow up. And they still have not read it. And they memorized what you said. And they taught their children. 3 generations without writing anything down. And then suddenly some books appear with hadiths. Where'd you get those hadiths? From the Prophet. How come there are only this many from Imam Ali alayhi salam? Barely anything. How come this many from Abu Hurairah in the thousands? Why? How did he memorize so much? What happened? For over 100 years, no one wrote anything down. Suddenly now, come on. At the very least, isn't there some Chinese whisper? Someone come and say, well, what about you, Shi'i? What happened with you? How come? Your books were written much later on. Sheikh al-Kulayni compiles our main book, Al-Kafi, in the time of Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. So our books were compiled much later than theirs. Doesn't the same argument apply to us? No, it doesn't. Do you know why? Because we believe in Imama. Do you know what that means? For us, the line was not cut. For us, the Ma'soom is still alive. For us, Rasulullah is still alive. Imam Ali is there. If I want to know what to do, I ask him. After him, Imam Al-Hasan is there. If I want to know what to do, I ask him. Then Imam Hussain is there. Then Imam Sajjad is there. Then Imam Al-Baqir is there. Then Imam Al-Sadiq is there. I don't need hadith books when I have the actual hadith source right in front of me. Why do I need to write it down? I just ask him. We don't have the same problem. Our hadiths were compiled by the companions of the Imams as the Imams were alive. And then those were made into Al-Kafi. In terms of Imama, our hadith sciences make a lot more sense. This is why we can't always be on the defensive all the time. And this is not to say we're coming always to try to smash another denomination. That's not what we're doing here at all. It's just so we understand that we have validation within ourselves, that we are proud of our own literature and our own heritage within ourselves, not in contrast to anyone else. In fact, we believe that we have something a lot more reliable because of the belief in Imama. That belief also puts away the idea that I and my son Hussain are the same and Hassan has his own way. Because if that was really the case, let's just pretend it was. We can all agree that Imam Ali alayhi salam wouldn't stray from justice, right? You can say that and I can say that, right? You can say it's because he's not pragmatic. I'll say because he's ma'soom. Then, how come, without any dispute and any debate, Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he leaves this world, very clearly he says, after me, Al-Hasan is the Khalifa. There is no debate. It's not like in the time of the Prophet where there's a debate and what happened and who said what, and there's so many narrations. And no, it was just one straight way. There was no election, there was no shura, there was nothing. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, after me Al-Hasan, Hasan after you is Hussain. Khalas. For someone so unpragmatic, why would he elect someone very different than him? And if Hussain alayhi salam is like his father, very non-pragmatic, how come he was an obedient follower to his older brother? It's hard for us to hear that Imam al-Hussain was an obedient follower. Yes, he was an obedient follower to Imam al-Hasan. He stood by him when he went for the truce with Muawiyah. When Imam al-Hasan left Kufa, Imam al-Hussain left Kufa with him. He did not dispute with him. He was a supporter of him. He was with him. In fact, one of the greatest proofs of Imamah, one of the greatest proofs that Imam al-Hasan was supposed to continue the line and Abu Abdullah was to continue the line was this fact that we all understand and know that Imam Ali was the way that he was, and he still selected Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, and Imam al-Hussain followed Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. So much that Imam Ali says to him in the letter before he leaves this world, وَجَدْتُكَ بَعْضِي بَلْ وَجَدْتُكَ كُلِّي كَأَنَّمَا أَصَابَكَ أَصَابَنِي. It is beautiful. He says, Imam Ali writes to his son, I found you to be a part of me. بَلْ وَجَدْتُكَ كُلِّي. No, not a part of me. You are all of me. Whatever happens to you, it happens to me. When the Imams talk in this way, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. He's from me, I'm from him. Fatima bid'atun minni. Fatima is a part of me. Wajadtuka ba'di, wajadtuka kulli. You are all of me. Ma asabaka asabani. What happens to you happens to me. They're saying we are one. Constantly, we are one. We are from one light. We are from one source. We are from one place. There is no differentiation between us. That's why our path is a path that is a very spiritual path. When we understand everything that the Imams went through. Yesterday I spoke about the glory and the perseverance before the death of the Prophet, after the death of the Prophet, and the difference in between. Likewise, wallahi, it is a great teaching for practice of religion. Because there is so much tragedy in the lives of the Ahlul Bayt. There is much tragedy in the lives of everyone that was close to Allah. All the prophets that were closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all had tragedy. And life, because we are in dunya, is going to be full of tragedy. And we practice religion because we find a way out. Something that gives us meaning. Something that allows us to make sense of these tragedies. And it does. That when we have Ahlul Bayt with us, on these nights we remember Imam Ali alayhi salam, and we love him so much, not just as a story, as a real man that reflects teachings for my life, that I want to live by the code of this man. And I want to raise my children by the code of this man. I want to have a marriage by the code of this man. I want to die by the code of this man. That's not just a story now. That's a code that you live by. Because you saw this man was able to persevere through everything. Everything, whilst never straying from justice, never straying from belief or love in Allah. In fact, love was what constantly pushed him through. And you can see it in the way that he expresses his emotions, his spiritual emotions to God in the different munajat and dua that he has. You can see in how he expresses it. Because people always ask, if I don't do this, does that mean I'll get punished? Or Allah will put me in hell? And you'll notice how Imam Ali's worldview, it's expressed and shown in a different way than the way that question is asked. Because he says in Dua Kumail, Sabartu ala adhabik, I'll be patient upon your punishment. If you want to punish me, I'll be patient. Sabartu ala adhabik, fakayfa asbiru ala firaqik. But how can I be patient to have firaq from you, to be separated from you? How can I be patient if you don't look at me, if you look away from me? That's what actually hurts him the most. What hurts him is that he really believes that he is not worshipping the worship of the merchant, nor the worship of the slave. He's not worshipping just to have heaven or just to escape hell. He's saying, put me in hell, but just look at me. But if you don't look at me, then what do I have left? He understands that what meaning does a creation have if the creator does not even regard the creation? That is the ultimate pain. He doesn't want that. That's the real understanding of hell, my brothers. The real understanding of hell and pain is for Allah to turn away from you, actually. He says in Munajat Sha'baniyah the same thing. وَإِن أَدْخَلْتَنِ النَّارِ أَخْبَرْتُ أَهْلَهَا أَنِّي أُحِبُّكَ. He constantly expresses this idea that even if you put me in hellfire, even if you put me in the nar, I will tell the inhabitants of the hellfire how much I love you. He has a lot of trust in Allah. This is a symbolism for dunya as well. Even if you put me in the hellfire, even when I'm going through my pain and torture and tragedy, I will tell the inhabitants of the hellfire that I love you. I will never stray, nor ask why me. I won't ask why me. I believe and I stay with you. That's why the famous hadith from Ahlul Bayt, one of my favorites, is Hubbullah nur wa nar. Love of Allah is nur, light, wa nar, fire. All you have to do in life, one thing, religiously, one thing is demanded of you for you to succeed and achieve salvation. Attain Hubbullah. Attain love of God. Truly attain love of God. In the Quran, Allah tells us, quoting the Prophet, إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحبكم الله. You claim to love Allah, follow me. Allah will love you. Prophet says, follow me. We follow the Prophet. We see how he told us, Kitabillah wa atrati ahli bayti. These two, they never separate. They stay together until they meet me at the pond of Kawthar. If you hang on to them, you'll never go astray. That's how he said, love Allah. I want to love Allah. The one thing I need to attain, really, truly, is loving Allah. The way Imam Ali loved Allah. Lord, even if you put me in the hellfire, I will tell all the inhabitants that I love you. Why? Because Hubbullah nur wa nar. The love of Allah brings me light, vision in my heart, allows me to know where to go, but it is also fire. Because love of Allah, it hurts. When you love God, you have to push through all the different obstacles for God. You don't take the easy way out, but the love of Allah, that fire not only hurts, it's so powerful that the fire of the love of Allah in the heart of a believer will burn everything that stands in its way. Even the fire of hell. Even the fire of hell. That's why he says, if you put me in the hellfire, I'll tell them that I love you. Because Hubbullah nur wa nahr. I also have fire in my heart. It will burn the hellfire. He is confident. What does he have to make himself confident? What can any of us have? Not our deeds, our love though. When you really love Allah, you're confident. Because you don't care anymore. You say to Allah, I let go. Like you mentioned for the Qadr nights. Allah, I let go. I let go. I love you and I let go. You can deal with me. And you can take me where you want to take me. And that was the way of the Ahlul Bayt. Constantly, all of them. They all let go and let Allah take them and lead the way. For us, they trailblazed the path for us and we follow suit. On these nights, we remember the great sacrifice of our master Imam Ali alayhi salam, who our lives have no meaning without. The man who allowed us to understand the words of Allah, the man who guarded our Prophet, the man who we would give our blood for in an instant. This is a blessing that we feel this way about someone, that we love him more than our mothers and our fathers. If someone was to offer you $10 billion to give up your knowledge of Imam Ali, you would never do it. You have something worth more than all the money in the world. This is the biggest blessing. None of us would be ready to give that up. What a blessing that we have, because as the hadith of the Prophet dictates, the report says, Ya Ali, he who loves you is a believer, and he who hates you is a munafiq. And may we all be the lovers of Ali bin Abi Talib. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا علي بن أبي طالب. On these nights, Mawlai, your followers remember you. We wish it was our head and not your head struck by the sword, Mawlai. We wish it was our blood and not your blood, Mawlai. As the blood dripped down your beard and Hassan wal Hussain carried you home, they laid you on the ground and Al Hassan would weep, and you would say, Ya Hassan, don't cry for me, beloved. And Imam Al Hussain would weep, and you would tell Hussain, don't cry for me, beloved. But when Zainab walked into the room and she saw your open head and she began to weep, Ya Ali, you began to weep. From the weeps of Zainab, you began to weep. You couldn't bear to hear her cries. How would you have felt had you heard her screams? From tent to tent, as your daughters bled, chased by horses, shackled and whipped, without the men of Ali to protect the women and children. Abu Hamza al-Thamali sat by Imam Ali on his deathbed. He was crying for Abu Turab, and Abu Turab told him, I see a vision. I see Rasulullah telling me that he's waiting for me. And I see Zahra telling me she's waiting for me, telling me it's my time to rest and leave this world. There was another Ali that saw Rasulullah and Fatima Zahra, but he didn't see them in the same way. He saw them whilst thirsty. Ali al-Akbar saw Rasulullah with a cup of water. If you drink this cup, my son, you will never go thirsty again. But he also saw his grandmother Fatima crying and wailing for her son Hussain. Wa Aliya wa Hussaina wa Aliya wa Hussaina. Everyone. Wa Aliya wa Hussaina wa Aliya wa Hussaina. Lanatullah ala qawm al-zalimin ila yawm al-qiyamah. Salawat.
Hussain. रो रो के अली क्यों लेते हैं ज़ैनब का नाम मुसल्ले पर। रो रो के अली क्यों लेते हैं ज़ैनब का नाम मुसल्ले पर। क्या याद अली को आया है बाज़ारे शाम मुसल्ले पर। रो रो के अली क्यों लेते हैं ज़ैनब का नाम मुसल्ले। रो रो के अली क्यों लेते हैं ज़ैनब का नाम मुसल्ले। क्या याद अली को आया है बाज़ारे शाम मुसल्ले पर के अली क्यों लेते हैं रो रो के अली خون جاری تھا زخمی سر سے، روتے تھے نمازی صف میں کھڑے، خون جاری تھا زخمی سر سے، روتے تھے نمازی صف میں کھڑے، کس طرح سنے رو رو کر کی فجر تمام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، کیا ماں کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، کیا ماں کی طرح لینے تم کو مسجد میں چلی آئے زینب، کیا ماں کی طرح لینے تم کو مسجد میں چلی آئے زینب، بابا کو جا کر دو فضا میرا پیغام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، یہ پہلی فجر ہے زینب کی سجدے میں سکون ملتا ہی نہیں، یہ پہلی فجر ہے زینب کی سجدے میں سکون ملتا ہی نہیں، دل ڈوبتا ہے آتا ہی نہیں، ایک پل آرام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، زخمی پہلو جب یاد آیا، زخمی پیشانی بھول گیا، زخمی پہلو جب یاد آیا، زخمی پیشانی بھول گیا، زہرا کی مصیبت پر رویا مظلوم امام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر، یہ پہلی فجر ہے زینب کی سجدے میں سکون ملتا ہی نہیں، یہ پہلی فجر ہے زینب کی سجدے میں سکون ملتا ہی نہیں، دل ڈوبتا ہے آتا ہی نہیں، ایک پل آرام مصلی پر، رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب مسلے پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مسلے پر دیوار کعبہ بیٹھ گئی الحمدللہ میں ڈوب گئی دیوار کعبہ بیٹھ گئی الحمدللہ میں ڈوب گئی امت سے ملا ہے مولا کو کیسا انعام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر دیوار کعبہ بیٹھ گئی الحمدللہ میں ڈوب گئی دیوار کعبہ بیٹھ گئی الحمدللہ میں ڈوب گئی امت سے ملا ہے مولا کو کیسا انعام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی زینب کا نام مصلی پر اس غیرت دار کی غربت پر روتی ہے علی کی غربت بھی اس غیرت دار کی غربت پر روتی ہے علی کی غربت بھی 40 برس جو کہتا رہا شام شام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر اس غیرت دار کی غربت پر روتی ہے علی کی غربت بھی اس غیرت دار کی غربت پر روتی ہے علی کی غربت بھی 40 برس جو کہتا رہا شام شام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتا ہے زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر کیا یاد علی کو آیا ہے بازار شام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر زخمی پہلو جب یاد آیا زخمی پیشانی بھول گیا زخمی پہلو جب یاد آیا زخمی پیشانی بھول گیا زہرا کی مصیبت پر رویا مظلوم امام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی زینب کا نام مصلی پر کیا یاد علی کو آیا ہے بازار شام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام رو رو کے علی یہ پہلی فجر ہے زینب کی سجدے میں سکون ملتا ہی نہیں یہ پہلی فجر ہے زینب کی سجدے میں سکون ملتا ہی نہیں دل ڈوبتا ہے آتا ہی نہیں ایک پل آرام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر کیا یاد علی کو آیا ہے بازار شام مصلی پر رو رو زینب کا نام مصلی پر شبیر کی جانب سے اکبر قاتل کو پلایا تھا شربت شبیر کی جانب سے اکبر قاتل کو پلایا تھا شربت جب یاد علی کو آیا تھا ایک تشنا کام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے ماشاءاللہ آپ سب کو مولا سلامت رکھے کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر کیا یاد علی کو آیا ہے بازار شام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی پر رو رو کے علی کیوں لیتے ہیں زینب کا نام مصلی مولا حق کے امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق کے امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین مولا حق کے امام یا علی یا علی مولا حق کے امام یا علی 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 وہ عابد بیمار تھا وہ عابد بیمار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق کے امام یا علی یا علی مولا حق کے امام یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی اور شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی سینے پہ وہ شاہ کے پلی سینے پہ وہ شاہ کی پلی اور جس کی ابا بن میں جلی جس کی ابا بن میں جلی منہ پر تماچوں کے نشان مولا حق کے امام یا علی یا علی
الشمار. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وسيد المرسلين وإمام المتقين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى الشهيد المسموم، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم منا سلام الله أبدا ما بقينا وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد منا لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبو الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين وأختيك زينب وأم كلثوم بنتك سكينة. السلام عليكم يا شهداء كربلاء جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على التسعة المعصومين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, we will start the Amal workshop and Q&A in 10 minutes, inshallah. 10 minutes.
محمد صلوات. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, we are starting in the next 2 minutes. Can I please request, if you're staying, inshallah it's going to be a very fruitful and valuable discussion with Sayyid Hussain. If you're not staying, no problem, please leave quietly. But if you are, please settle down. And inshallah we'll start within the next 2 minutes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. My brothers, my sisters, اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Thank you guys so much for staying behind. I know it can be late nights. You had a late night last night and looks like another late one tonight, inshallah. But I was requested to be here after the program for any questions that you guys may have regarding the a'mal, the lectures, or literally anything else that I may be of service with. And I would be happy to answer any of your questions. If you would like to put your hand up, or if you are shy, put a note down. But inshallah, the lawyer, the Khoja Russell Brand, if you would like to tell me what his question is, I'll be at your service. Tell me. Alaikum salam. You know what? They're going to give you a mic so then everyone can hear you. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, Wasim. Oh, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. Okay, so this is a really simple question. During the month of Ramadan, where we talk about the closeness with God, coming to spirituality, forgiveness, and so on and so forth. But what I really wanted to ask is, during the course of fasting, when you're actually fasting throughout that day, you're reflecting upon yourself, reflecting upon God, and everything else that He's bestowed upon you. How is it, or what is it, if someone is holding or harboring animosity, hatred towards their fellow brother Muslim? How does that then translate into their fast?
Ahsan, thank you so much for asking that. So, on the first night, we were speaking about the different layers of fasting. And that the first level of fasting was refraining from food and drink. And that there is a narration attributed to our first Imam in which he says at the end of Ramadan, how many people, all they did during the month was they stopped eating and stopped drinking. That fasting was supposed to be something deeper than just not eating and not drinking. And so at the second layer, we know that fasting also is regarded as fasting of the eyes, fasting of the tongue, fasting of the ears, to refrain from those actions that you're not supposed to transgress the limits of Allah with. But at the third layer of fasting is fasting with your heart. And to fast with your heart means to detach. It means La ilaha illallah for real. No more worship and no more ego worship and no more worship of the self. We hold grudges sometimes. How can this person do that to me? How can they do this to me? And there is a great distinction between being angry at someone doing something to you and being angry that someone crossed the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And most of the time you will find that we get angry when someone does something to us. The problem is we are harming ourselves when we hold these grudges. And it's very difficult to let go of grudges, depending on what the person did to you. I know I've already heard several times, I've been here for a few days, and several people have spoken to me about other people in this mosque. You know, someone took his haqq, someone did this, someone did that, and I said, may Allah bring you your haqq back, may Allah give justice. You know, there's only so much that I can do. I can pray, you know, and I understand it's a problem. These are the problems of dunya, the frictions of dunya. A lot of our haqq is taken. The problem is, a lot of the people that hurt you, they move on. And when you allow it to consume you slowly, you're the one that is facing the problem yourself now. And you cause a problem for yourself. So, it's been a year since the problem occurred. You're sitting down and you start thinking about what the person did to you and how they could do that to you. How could he do it to me? No one does that to me. Right? And then slowly it starts to grow in you. And you start getting angry. And you get angry all over again. And it shows in your face and your blood pressure. And you become red. And nothing's actually happening on the outside. You're just sitting down in your car. You're just driving to work. And you're getting angry. And it happened a year ago. And it's happening in here. A lot of the time, you can be your worst enemy. More so that when you're fasting, you're supposed to be practicing detachment. You can't detach from your own ego yet. And so you find the best thing you can do, and it's true, wallah, and it's very, very hard to do this sincerely. But the best thing you can do to forgive someone and remove that hatred from your heart, to bring softness to your heart, to remove animosity from your heart, is to pray for that person that hurt you. If you can try to pray for the person who hurt you, then you are overstepping your ego. And it's really hard, but you must try it. And you will see, then it's really jihadun nafs. You're really fighting against yourself because you're speaking about your 40 people, you remembered mom and dad, you remembered everyone, and then that annoying person just comes up and you're thinking, should I pray for him? And you're like, nah, I'm not praying for him. But you know what happens? Like, you're trying to withhold mercy from him. But if you pray for him in that moment, you're saying mercy is abundant. You know who says mercy is abundant? Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah likes for you to be like him. He likes for you to be like him. Ya abdi ata'ani takun mithli. My servant, obey me. You will become like me. In the Hadith Qudsi, he says that he wants you to have mercy. He wants you to have hilm. Because those are the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He loves those attributes. So I think that the way we want to deal with creation, and of course I'm speaking about a level that's high here. You know, we're not saints, but we want to try to be the best people that we can. And the way that I'm trying to sell you this is by telling you it's better for you. I'm trying to tell you that you're the one that's in pain. You're not hurting anyone with a grudge. You're the one hurting yourself with the grudge. And so when you finish fasting, if you're in Ramadan is that month of detachment, fasting is supposed to help us detach even from our grudges. Even right now, I'm thinking of all the people that I don't like in my head right now. And I need to practice this as well. So I'm going to go home and pray for these people. Yeah, exactly. You know, you want to just be bigger and move on. But it's the ego. The thing is, we have a hard time letting go of who we are. How can they mess with me? You know, in everyone's head, you're like a mafia boss. But really, you're going to work 9 to 5 and everybody. In your head, you're watching a lot of Peaky Blinders and you think you're Tommy Shelby. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Sorry. You get the next one.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid.
Alaikum salam.
Jazakallah for being here. Yesterday when we were talking about connecting to Allah and all those and things like, so for me I feels like feeling connection with Imam Tahrin, it's easier because when we're reciting du'as or ziyarat, because we can visualize the shrines and the rosas, but connecting to Allah, there's nothing coming to like something that makes us like feeling connected. So what should we do it like?
Yes. So when you're saying that when you're doing ziyarah, you can imagine the shrine. But when it's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's harder to connect because there's nothing to tangibly connect to. This is normal for a human being. My brothers, if you can help me out and focus on what I'm saying so that then I can focus on the answer, I'd really appreciate that. If you're saying that as a human being, it's hard for me to think of something that's not tangible like God, that's true. And that's why the pagans used to always have statues, because it was hard for them to understand the concept of immateriality. Even in the first couple of nights I spoke about immaterial concepts, and some people liked it and some others were like, what the heck are you talking about? Because they're not used to this. They're used to more history. Like today I gave history, for example. You understand these a lot easier because they are about stories of human beings. But when I start speaking about immaterial, abstract concepts, we're not used to that. We're used to something physical. However, the higher level of the human faculty is the intellect. And the intellect is able to understand that which is immaterial. For example, let me give you certain, my answers are a bit long, so bear with me, but I'm going to get to the point. When I speak about certain immaterial concepts, you start to realize your brain works in a different way. The higher you go, the more you're able to understand the spiritual and abstract world. So when people ask the question, and this is a good question for you, just think about it just for 10 seconds. If Allah is so powerful, can He create a rock so heavy that He can't lift it? Just think about it for 10 seconds. He's so strong, He can do anything, right? But can He create a rock so heavy, He Himself can't lift it up? Okay. Do you realize as you're trying to think about this, you're entering a different level of thinking. It's a different way of thinking, because this takes intellect to try to understand what the answer is. Would anyone like to answer this? Anyone like to answer this? Hamza, you want to answer it, man? Yeah, I can try. Go on.
I was going to say he would be able to carry it because it would cancel out, because Allah is possible for everything.
Allah is possible. It's possible for Him to do anything, right?
Yeah, so it'd be possible for Him to make a rock so heavy, but it wouldn't be possible to make a rock.
I mean, it has to be one or the other. Here, take the mic. It's one or the other. Either He can make it so heavy that He can't lift it, or He lifts it and it's not so heavy. So which one is it?
I think it's number 2 personally. Because
but then that means that He couldn't make the rock that heavy. So then He couldn't break the impossible. Listen, the question is wrong. Okay? There is no answer. The question is wrong. Let me tell you why. Everything, so it's a trick question. Because it's like me saying, can my whole body fit in this cup? You know, the question is wrong. If Allah is so powerful, can He make my whole body fit in this cup? It's wrong, because these things don't fit. The laws and dimensions of the cup are different to the laws and dimensions of my body. So it doesn't fit. It's not that the problem is with Allah, the problem is with the cup and me. You're choosing two things that don't fit in capacity. The problem is not with the power of God. He already created these with these laws. The reason why you have a hard time trying to answer this is because it goes back to a logical concept, which is the concept of all knowledge, which is the law of non-contradiction. In logic and philosophy is the field of intellect. In logic, all knowledge begins with the law of non-contradiction, which means this cup cannot be here and not be here at the same time. You can't have this cup and not have this cup at the same time. It's one or the other. If God is so powerful, can He make me have this cup and not have this cup at the same time? Do you understand how silly it is yet? I'm trying to poke a hole in God's power when what I'm trying to say is, this is impossible. This one, what I'm asking for is an impossible thing. It's not that Allah has any lack of power. What I'm asking for is an impossible thing. It's like asking, if God is so great, can He create another God? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Because if He creates another God, then another God is also infinite. But there can only be one infinite being. So which one decides what the law is? There's only one God. If there are two gods, they're going to fight over who's going to be the best God. It doesn't work. The problem is not with God's power. The problem is with what I am trying to infer. So, why did I give this example? Because we don't usually think at the level of the intellect. What I'm speaking about right now, in Hausa, for example, every day, 1 hour, we do this. For 1 hour. What you're doing is you're training your mind to think at the level of the intellect. So you're training your faculty to be above just the material physical. When your intellect can see, can witness, and everyone has the intellect, you just need to train it, that's all. Then you can witness and you can regard different logical laws. But even then, that's not everything. This is just for you to understand what the abstract is. But there's a world that you're not even trying to enter right now, that is right in front of you. Because we get so locked down in dunya and material, we are so used to material, we forget about the world above. But the world beyond us is a great example of what's inside us. So, for example, I have a body. The external reality mirrors my body with dunya, the material world. I have imagination. Right now, I can think of a dragon and I can think of a mountain. I think of the sea. Right now, I can see all of it in my head. I close my eyes, I can see it. You can see it too. That's your imagination. That's the world of barzakh externally. The world of the intellect, when I think about the abstract, impossible, possible, cup being here, not being here, same time, the law of cause and effect, the law of non-contradiction, these things, that's the level of intellect. That's the level of the afterlife, alamul aqul, where the angels are. As in the world is like a giant human being. A human being is like a small world. All these things are within you, but you have to be able to access them. These are real. These are not just random ideas I'm throwing out. This is real. These faculties live in you. You can access them, but you don't know that you have them. You're not aware of them. You can do them easily. You walk around all day, you imagine things, but you don't realize you're using this faculty now, and then you use this faculty now. But you can do that. That's why, for example, you can be in the car getting angry at someone, nothing's happening. Because your emotions follow your imagination. So imagine how much you can control if you're able to access your faculties. Now, what happens when we come to dua? Now I get to the point. The point is, when I'm speaking about God, I don't have anything tangible in front of me because Allah is not tangible. But Allah can be, you can say you can access yourself. You can never access God. You can access yourself to understand God. You see how I told you about the world externally through you yourself? I can imagine barzakh by looking at the dream world. You know how you have dreams? That's barzakh. A lot of that is barzakh. That's why you're able to see your dead loved ones when they come to you in your dream. A lot of the time, that's real. Or Ahlul Bayt. And accessing you from the world beyond in barzakh. Doesn't mean you're special. Anyone can have this. Sometimes it's a warning. Sometimes it's a warning. Someone says that means that you're special or you're a saint. Sometimes it's a warning. It doesn't mean anyone can have a vision. So the external world is mirrored through you now. Likewise, if you want to be able to speak to God and access a relationship with Him, you need to understand yourself more, which is exactly what I hope to be speaking about in the coming nights. I need to know myself. Man arafa nafsah, faqad arafa rabbah. No one knows me as much as I know me. I know me the most. So if I want to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I start from me. So the hadith that I read the other day from the Imam Sadiq, when he says, how do you not see Allah? He's right before He manifested Himself through your love, through your strength, through your well-being, through your health, through your power, as in the power that I have to hold this microphone, the power that I have to get up and walk, the willpower that I'm exercising, that I do without giving it a second thought. But when I take a moment, I think, this is a miracle. How do I just decide what to do? When you start to break down those ideas, that power, that's from Allah. Allah's power, but Allah's power is infinite. You're going to know Allah through yourself. A lot of the saints of God, what they would do is they would close their eyes and they would look within, and then they would know how to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That from yourself is the greatest way to reach Allah. Everything around us here is material. And you cannot access the immaterial through the material. You cannot go to God through the material. That's why inside you, your knowledge is immaterial. Within you, it's immaterial. You have direct access to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you look within. You look inside you. So that's why I like to use the reminders of dunya. I was mentioning, look at the signs and symbols of dunya. So your children are a great sign and symbol of Allah for you. In the way that you are providing rizq for them. In the way that you are the one that's taking care of them. I remember when I was a kid, I thought that my father was the strongest man in the world. When you're 6 years old, you think your dad's the absolute best. No one can take my dad. Why? Because I'm thinking of Al-Qawi. As a 6-year-old son, I know God inside my heart. But I don't know how to understand immateriality. So I see my father and I think he's the strongest in the world. So he was my first God, if you will, in that way for a child. That's why it's so important that the parent is able to give a good impression to the child of someone taking care of them. Otherwise, they grow up and they have a lot of problems with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can see that when they're teenagers, they don't like God, or they think God hates them because their parents make fun of them, or their parents squash them, or don't believe in them. It means God doesn't believe in me. When you grow up, it's very important. Nurturing is very important. So subhanallah, when you're a child, that's a great symbol. When you have children, it's a great symbol. Likewise, when you grow up, when you get married, when you're disappointed, when you receive money, whatever it is, all of these different symbols and signs point towards God. So the emotions you have inside you, just like you don't have to be taught about your thirst or your hunger or your pain, you don't need to be taught about any of that. You feel it. I don't have to tell you about that. You feel it inside you. Likewise, when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the names of God, like in Dua al-Jawshan, all those names can be found in dunya around you. So when you look at the beauty of the earth, the beauty of the oceans, the beauty of the heavens, the beauty of the sky, that beauty came from somewhere. A beautiful person's face is so attractive. How are they so attractive? Think about it for a moment. What is it about a person's face that we think makes them so beautiful? What is it? Like some symmetry? They have symmetry, a nice little nose, a forehead, the cheekbones are high, and every few centuries or generations, the ideas about what beauty is change. But we know beauty. So right now, there's a level of beauty. We look at that person, we think that person is beautiful. They're attractive. I'm very attracted to the way the person looks. Think about the idea for a moment of beauty. Where does that come from? Why do I think that's beautiful and that's ugly? What makes something beautiful? Whatever it is, and I find it so awesomely attractive, that comes from somewhere. The level of beauty comes from somewhere. So if you imagine, this is a very minuscule shade of what attraction is, what beauty is. God's beauty is blinding. God's beauty makes you forget yourself. If the appearance of Nabi Yusuf, the beauty of Yusuf made those women cut their fingers because they couldn't believe how beautiful he was. He was so attractive as a man. They found him, they were so dumbfounded by his beauty that they forgot the pain by which they were cutting their fingers. Imagine the beauty of Allah. Allah is beautiful. So if you are a person that loves beauty, you're attracted to beauty, then this is one of the ways in which you can remind yourself to interact with God. Look, people have different characteristics and cultures. You also must know yourself. Some people, they are Jamali people. Some people are Jalali people. Jamali people, they love beauty. So, for example, Persian culture is very beautiful. It's a beautiful culture. It's a culture that loves beauty. That's why you have poets like Hafiz and Rumi and these guys, because they talk about love and beauty. So that's the culture. So you give someone in Mashhad, Subbuhun Quddusun Rabbil Malaikati wal Ruh, you give him a dhikr, he sits down, he starts to think about it, and he goes towards, meditation. You give someone from another culture, like in Lebanon, you give someone Subbuhun Quddusun Rabbil Malaikati wal Ruh, he'd be like, nothing. Because then they don't appreciate beauty that much. They're more Jalali culture. So they don't like those like dhikr poets, poems. But if you sit down, Layt al-Qadr, and you read Abu Hamza al-Thamali, and you say, Ya Allah, in my grave, raise me from my grave with the angel of death above me, and I have nothing but my sins on my back, they're all crying because they need fear. That's their culture. Okay? That's how they understand and interact. So they know themselves more in that way because they're a type of warrior type of culture. They're not into the dhikr, meditation, beauty style. Different style. Now, those are cultures. Then you have individuals. Sometimes you might be a Jalali person. Sometimes you're a Jamali person. Sometimes you're a so depending on who you are. So a very Jamali dua is dua Arafah. You're constantly recounting the relationship between you and Allah, the beauty of Allah. A Jalali dua is dua Abu Hamza al-Thamali. That Allah turned away from me and left me with the disbelievers. And so it depends. How are you going to go to Allah? Through fear or through hope? Or both? Both is always the best way. Inside you, you want to feel taken care of. Feel how you feel towards your mother and your father. Feel how you feel towards someone who took care of you. Try to project that onto God in the beginning. So you're using your imagination. In the beginning, you can use imagination, but the idea is always to try to get to the intellect. To try to go above to the intellect. I know there's a whole lecture for that answer. I'm sorry. I'm gonna take it easy from now on because otherwise we won't get through any questions. But it's a really detailed answer. I hope it was understood. Is to try to understand God first through imagination. It helps you, but still you're not there. Intellect is where you want to go, to access through the names of God, which you can see literally manifested everywhere inside you, everywhere around you. And if you really start to look at life like this, then you would start to see Allah everywhere. That's why it's reported that Imam said, I didn't see a thing except I saw Allah in it before it and after it. And if the curtains of the unseen were lifted, I would not increase in certainty, and etc. etc. Because he saw everything as a manifestation of God's names. So this is how we must see God's names. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the Ahlul Bayt, for me, I see it as they're the only ones who fully understand what's going on. And I don't. And I just, end of the day, say, just take my hand and you lead me, because I don't know. But I'm going to try my best to try to fathom the names of God. The Ahlul Bayt are my last hope, and ultimately they take me there. But I need to try to create that relationship with my Lord. I'll try to be much faster now.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Alaikum
Thank you
salam.
so much. We've had a question come through from a sister.
Yes.
So
I was going to ask, what happened to the sisters?
They do have a mic, but this one was just sent through to us. To make the question more kind of just even, it's the gist of the question is, do we have to be in wudu for the a'mal, for example, tasbih, du'as? Is it better to be in wudu, or can we benefit the same way without wudu? Obviously, the context from the question, which he's written as well, is that sometimes in the time of the month, they're not praying anyway. So is it better to be in wudu, or can we benefit in the same way without wudu?
Okay, so about the time of the month, I'm going to put that aside for a moment and just answer the question in terms of wudu, then I'll answer that one. In terms of wudu, wudu is always better. Allah loves you to be on wudu, and one of the first actions that we should do if we're trying to become more spiritual is to always be strapped with wudu all the time. Always be on wudu after the bathroom. Wudu is one of those states that Allah loves. So of course, now is wudu wajib? No, it's not. Wudu is only wajib for something else that's wajib. On its own, it's not wajib. We know Salat al-Dhuhr is wajib. One of the conditions of Salat is wudu. And so then I have to perform wudu. But wudu on its own is not wajib. But wudu, when I am in a state of purification, it's a state Allah loves me to be in. Now, the prayers that I want to perform on the Qadr nights have to be in wudu, because the condition for the prayer is wudu. Even if it's mustahab prayer, it cannot be prayed mustahab without wudu. So I need that. For the du'as and the dhikr, I don't need wudu. I can perform that normally. I just cannot touch the names of the Ahlul Bayt with my skin, or the names of Allah with my skin, or the Quran with my skin, with my hand. And that's the only thing I can't do. I can recite everything though. I can recite Quran, but it's always better to pee upon wudu, because that's what Allah loves. Now, if I am in that time of the month, not me, but someone else, if they're in that time of the month, then of course, they as well cannot touch the names of the Imams or the words of the Quran, but they can recite everything. And now, this is one of those situations that's like, can I be fit into this cup? You know, she cannot perform wudu because there's nothing to perform wudu for. She's going to pray. Now, she can perform wudu, but she's not in a state of ablution in order to pray a prayer. So she can perform wudu. That's fine, but she's not going to be performing any prayer at that moment. So it doesn't affect her. It's not like Allah wants her to remove herself from the menstrual cycle. You know, a sister asked me the other day, she's like, every year on Qadr night, this happens to me. You know, is there something wrong? I'm like, no, it's not wrong. This is normal biology. There's nothing wrong. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, this is what He wants from you now. So I shouldn't try to give more than Allah wants from me. Allah wants this from me. You know, sometimes we try to give more because we want to prove ourselves. That's for us. But Allah is saying, this is what I want from you. There is no blame, no guilt, nothing. She can do all the amal that we do as well. Just the prayer cannot be done, and she can't touch something with her hands. But she can perform wudu if she wants to perform wudu. It's just not for prayer. There's no one better than anyone just because they can't perform wudu.
Sorry, there's quite a few questions, especially from the ladies. We've had 2 from the men. So I'm going to do 1 more from the ladies, and then we'll go back to the men, inshallah.
Yes.
The question is, are a'mals better done in a group, for example, at the mosque with the community, or is it better to do them in solitude?
Yes, good question. So we have narrations from the Ahlul Bayt that say that they love for the followers of the Prophet to have dua in groups. So it's important that we make an effort to be in groups, especially when it comes to Salah al-Jama'ah in groups is more recommended than Furada. Dua in groups is more recommended. However, it's important, I also think, to have your own space and your own time. Personally, I find a whole different relationship with God when I'm alone, and I need that time as well. And I'm sure a lot of people do too. So I would say a combination of the two is is the ideal. You have to make an effort to be in groups. If it was up to me, I would do it alone because I prefer it. But I know that Ahlul Bayt recommended it, so then I would make an effort to be in groups. So I would go to be in groups, because if one of us is sincere, we're all sincere, inshallah. So imagine 10 of us, 9 of us don't have the proper relationship with God, but one of us did it, he carries the other 9. So I'm going to go for that. I'll take that, you know. But at the same time, I need that moment of reflection alone. And that's why it's important for you to also know that on the nights of Qadr, the best actions to do are actually to sit and reflect and think. Even if it's in silence. It's not in just continuously reading dua. It's not about trying to get as much done as you can. It's about trying to really find some answers for yourself on how to change your destiny, what's needed of you, where are you right now compared to where you were last year. Write some things down, reflect, seek knowledge, read a book, read about Allah, read about Ahlul Bayt, read about whatever it is in Islam that you feel can bring you towards God. Seeking knowledge on this night, reflection on this night is very important as well, and that's usually done alone. So there has to be some time alone, especially in silence, sitting in meditation like the Prophet did in Ghar Hira. When he went to the cave, he went by himself. You have to have your own Ghar Hira. That's why the Salatul Layl is so recommended to be done without anyone knowing. Right? If you're all together, everyone knows about it. So you should be praying Salatul Layl and no one knows about it. Go, pray, and that means you're alone. And that's important to have your alone time. There's times Islam is a balance. We have Salatul Jama'ah and we have Salatul Layl. You have to have both.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Firstly, thank you for your lectures.
Thank you.
They're very spiritualizing. They're very good. Gives us God's centricity as well and understanding. What I wanted to ask was, with regards to the nights of Laylatul Qadr, as the Shia, we have the 21st night and the 23rd night. 19th is more the night we add it on because it's just the pretext. When we look through the narrations, etc., Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam used to give great importance to the 27th night. And from what I've read back in history, the 27th night was a very important night. However, I don't know if this is anti-Sunni rhetoric from Safavid Empire or whatever, but we've completely forgotten about the 27th night. We don't give it any importance. What is the reasoning behind that?
Yes. I mean, I think that overall, the narrations of Ahlul Bayt, you can find emphasis on the last 10 nights, even more so than the 27th. So the 10 nights of Ramadan, the last 10 are the most special. However, there is, if you want, the greatest emphasis has been on the 19th, 21st and 23rd. And not even because of Imam Ali's martyrdom, that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has reports in which he says that Laylatul Qadr should be revived upon 3 nights, not just one, which is 19th, 21st and 23rd. The 19th, 21st and 23rd, afwan, yes. Those 3 nights. And that each night is part of the night of Qadr. And that each night is connected to the second and the third night. So those 3 nights are what you can say over the period of the last 1,000 years that the scholars saw as the most important in order for one to have said that I was able to have recited on Laylatul Qadr. But yes, definitely there are reports that speak about the 27th night, but they weren't up to par, if you will, with the 19th, 21st and 23rd narrations. So the narrations, you can say, if I had, for example, 20 narrations talking about those 3 nights, and then 2 about 27th, and then 1 about the last 10. I'm going to focus on the first 3 the most, and make that the emphasis. And then I'd say these nights are all very recommended, and you should do all nights if you can. But if you're going to choose, it would be these 3. And then slowly, as we grow into a community that are not scholars, slowly these become traditions. And then we focus on these 3 the most, especially when it comes to the idea and the concept of the martyrdom of the Imam, and then we revive it on this night as well. And then it becomes a tradition that we follow. But ultimately, alhamdulillah, it's still in line for the last 1,000 years with these 3. So it's not like a Shi'i, just a Shia crime. It's actually those 3 nights that are recommended in the traditions itself. And yes, 27th is recommended, and so the last 10. But I would say these 3 is the highest emphasis.
One of the questions from the sisters was also why are there so many nights of Qadr? So it's a nice opportunity just to link that.
You know
So why are
what?
there
Let
so
me
many
just
in the
get
first
this hadith. SubhanAllah, I had it yesterday. Let me read this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, so this report, I was reading it yesterday, where Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, on the 19th of Ramadan, destiny is written. On the 21st of Ramadan, decisions are taken. On the 23rd of Ramadan, it's endorsed and signed. It's almost like it happens in stages. So 19th, destiny is written. 21st, decisions are taken. 23rd, endorsed and signed. So it's linked. It's linked intentionally. It's intentionally linked. Okay, so each night continues onto the next one. That's why you want to build it up slowly. And the big night is the 23rd night. Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
I
salam.
just wanted to ask that I heard during Ramadan, during fasting, sleeping is like worshipping. But what is the limit to it? Like, is there a limit on how much sleeping there is? And like, is there a point where it doesn't become like worship?
No, look, there's no limit to it. There's no limit to it. You know, you can sleep as much as you want. However, the idea is you don't want that sleep to conflict or contradict with your other a'mal. So, for example, if the sleep's making you pray later, if the sleep's making you take time away from other good a'mal like Quran, if everyone's making food for you but you're sleeping and you're not helping, if you're becoming difficult in the house because you're making everyone stay quiet because you're asleep, that's when it's a problem. You know, so you have to put it into context. So sleep is ibadah, as long as you're not bothering other people. Imagine someone was being lazy, praying at 5 p.m., everyone's making food for him, they're quiet, he's being annoying, we can't make him angry if he wakes up, and he wakes up is ibadah. It doesn't work like that. You know, everything contextualized. But the idea behind it was that this month is so special that it's so easy to gain the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you're sleeping, Allah wants to bless you. So imagine if you were actually seeking Him, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would accept you. That's the benefit we take from the teaching. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for all the wonderful lectures.
Thank you.
Quick question. So as an individual and as a community, how do we know that we have a successful Ramadan? Are there any tangible kind of metrics or something like that?
I think when it comes to being a Muslim, you can never really say, I succeeded in terms of my a'mal or my ibadah in that way. Because Ayatollah Burujurdi, the leader of the Hawza in the 60s, he was passing away at that time. And this is a man who, he was the leader before Sayyid al-Khou'i and the Imam Khomeini. And he had built the Hawza and he had led, and he was on his deathbed and he was crying. And all the ulama around him were saying, why are you crying? You did so much and you're about to leave and you look so scared. Why are you crying? And he said, how do I know that was all sincere? And this is the truth of the matter. If you were to ask any of God's saints, like Sheikh Bahjat, and you say, are you sincere? He would say, I hope so, inshallah, I don't know. So there's no way for us to discern and say, I made it. And I think that's very special and important, because sincerity is one of those things that has to constantly be verified again and again and again. You might start out sincere. I remember when I left to Hawza, I had nothing. I was dirt poor. No one knew who I was. No one wanted to marry me. I was just a kid trying to go to Allah, and then that was my proof for Allah. I said, Ya Allah, look, I don't want anything. I'm just coming to you. I left everything. I left my parents. I'm just here because I'm sincere. And then Allah let me travel the world, and now everyone knows me, and I got married, and I have a nice family. Alhamdulillah, rizq came, and now I have everything because I chose this. Am I still sincere? Now it's like the complete opposite. Now I can't even say anything. Allah's like, look what I gave you. I gave you 10 times back. And now maybe I want to perform lectures because I like everyone liking them. I have to keep asking myself, did you do that for them or for Allah? Every day, every time. Because as soon as it starts to be about me, we have a problem. So with Shahr Ramadan, it's the same. We are servants of God. We owe Him everything. He owes us nothing. We don't deserve to exist. He allowed us to. We're His servants. So we act as His agents. And whatever He wants from us, we say, I love you. And we say it the same way Imam Ali said, if you want to put me in fire, I love you. But this is the idea. When you gain that love for God, if you love Allah, that's the best proof that you have. But don't get excited about it because it's a gift that can go away. Ask Allah. You know that beautiful dua, Ya Allah. He said the dua, Ilahi arjuka lihubbik wa hubba man yuhibbuk. Lord, I pray and hope that you give me and grant me your love and the love of those who love you. The love of those who love you. So you're asking for the love. It's a gift. If you have that, that's your best tangible evidence, but it's nothing to get you excited over because it can leave you. What becomes apparent to you though, for failure, is if you just return to normal habits like you always have. If you didn't change at all after the month of Ramadan, after ziyarah, after Ashura, then you really have to ask yourself what it is that you're doing when you come to take part in the ceremony. Because you're just the same person again and again and again. So then I would be worried and I need to find another way. And again, I would ask Allah for the same thing. So as long as you keep coming back, inshallah.
Hussain, maybe time for 2 or 3 more questions. If that's all right.
Bismillah.
I've got 2 here, so maybe 2 from my phone and then 1 from the brothers. The first question is from the sisters. How do we find the balance between accepting the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also having hope that our du'as will be answered?
So this question is asking about Allah's response, really. So we want to accept Allah's decree, and we want also Allah to answer our prayer. So let's break down what we mean by dua. I swear I'm not going to take long. Wallah, I won't take long. I'm just going to break it down quickly. When you paid charity, when you give $1 to charity or £1, did you eradicate poverty? Of course not. You're not doing it to eradicate poverty. You wish that you could eradicate poverty. But you're doing this right now because you're trying to create a relationship between you and Allah. Ultimately, when you're giving charity, you haven't done too much on the ground, yani. Even if you give a lot of money. So if you gave £100, £1,000, you fed a few families. But there are thousands more hungry. You can't feed them all. But if you think like this, it's a defeatist attitude. So we don't think like this. We say every penny counts. So we try our best. Because ultimately, when it comes to sadaqah, the aim is not to eradicate poverty. Allah does not want you to eradicate poverty. He does it, He tells you give sadaqah for you. Why? Because then you've done something for Him. Then you've built a relationship. You're starting to build towards something with God. And everything is like this, including dua. Dua is an excuse to speak to Allah. That is the actual aim of dua. The first aim of dua is not to get what you're actually asking for, it's the fact that you spoke to God. Now, we want what we're asking for. But before that, Allah wants you as His servant to be in a relationship with Him where you know your place and you know His place. It's for you. So when Nabi Musa alayhi salam, he could speak to God, but there were times when he wouldn't say what he wanted. And then Allah said, Musa, why don't you ask me what you want? And Musa says, Ya Allah, you know. He says, Musa, ask me. Even for the laces on your shoes, ask me. In the Hadith Qudsi. Ask me. Because He likes when you ask Him. He likes when you talk to Him. Notice the theme is to do what Allah loves. To do, because Allah is all goodness. And all for you. He loves you more than your mother loves you. He wants goodness for you more than you want goodness for yourself. So He wants you to talk to Him because this is the best way for the human being to live. This is the best way that his creation will function. He knows that. Now, I've asked Him. I've done what He wants. Ultimately, I already achieved the goal. Khalas. I spoke to Him. I asked Him. Goal achieved. But now I also want what I'm asking for. I want Him to grant my grandmother shifa. I want Him to provide a rizq for me. I want Him to do these things. Yes, He does them. And at times, you think that He doesn't do them, but it's always for the benefit of your own self. And we all know the wisdom behind this. I remember when I was 20 years old, and I really wanted to get married to this sister. And I kept praying for it, and it didn't work out. And I was so upset. And then I eventually got married to the woman that I'm married to now, and I'm so happy, alhamdulillah. I'm so glad I didn't marry the first one. when I was a kid. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Okay, imagine he just answered my prayer because a silly little kid was like, Ya Allah, please just answer. I mean, it doesn't always work this way. That's where the trust is. That I pray, I want this, but ultimately I trust that you know what's best for me. Sometimes money is not best for me. Sometimes I should not have wealth because when I was poor, I remembered Allah more and I was needy of God and I loved God and I always relied on God. And then I made a little bit of money and now I started to think I'm better than other people and I started to treat the waiter like I'm better than him and I started to be arrogant. What did money do to me? So God kept it away from me. I might say, why is Allah making my life so hard? But it doesn't work that way. That's where the balance is. I need to accept God's decree. So I asked him, the fact that I asked him was beautiful. And look at the adab and etiquette of the way that Nabi Ayyub asks Allah. Look what he says. Ayyub, you know Ayyub went through the most difficult circumstances. He had everything and then he was exiled and sick and his children were killed and no one wanted him and no one came near him. The patience of Ayyub is an example for us. He says in the Quran, this is what he says. Ilahi massani dur. Lord, hardship has befallen me. Wa anta arhamur rahimin. That's it. He says, and you are the most merciful. That's it. He didn't say, take it away. He just said, Lord, I'm hurt, I'm in pain. So he knows what dua is. I'm talking to God. I just want to talk to Allah. He's speaking to Allah. He tells him, Lord, I'm in pain. Hardship has befallen me. And you're the most merciful. I trust you. So even though I'm in pain, I trust you. And this is the same thing Abu Abdullah said when Ali al-Asghar was in his arms. Ya Allah, I can only go through this because you're watching me. So he's still talking to Allah. He doesn't say, stop this. Ya Allah, why? Why this? Kill them all. He just says, Lord, I know you see me. I can handle this because you see me. If there was no Allah, why would he go through all of that? But because he's using it as the relationship between him and I. When Pharaoh came, Musa said, Kalla, Allah is with me. Allah is with me. Constantly, the God consciousness of the prophets, the God consciousness of the Imams is all about speaking to God. That's the idea of dua, really. The idea of dua is to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we receive is secondary always, because there's always hikmah to it. Was it good for me or was it not good for me? Like the story of the istikhara, when the man asked the Sheikh about a business proposal, and he said, would this be good for me, istikhara? And the Sheikh did the istikhara, and it came out very bad. Don't do it. And the man went and did it anyway. He started the business, and it blew, and he made millions. And he thought, what kind of istikhara was that? And he came back to the Sheikh and said, Sheikh, you said the istikhara was bad, and I did it anyway, and I had millions. And the Sheikh said, has your life changed at all since then? What's different? How many times have you stopped waking up for prayer? And the man said, that's true, I don't wake up for prayer anymore. He said, well, that's why it came bad. Because all that money you made was not worth one Fajr prayer. One Fajr prayer, it was not worth it. The millions of dollars to intentionally miss Fajr the next day shows that you chose something over God. So it's not always in the way that we understand. That's why we have to have, you can't know everything. I must give up to Allah. I can't know everything. That's the mystery of religion. There has to be some mystery in faith. Lord, you know best. Not Allahu a'lam, Allahu al-alim. Not only Allah knows better, or Allah knows, that's it. Allah's the only one that knows. Not that He knows best and that I know something He knows more than me. I don't know, Allah knows. Allahu al-alim. Allah is the one with knowledge only, no one else. So when we come to dua, understand the first thing of dua is the fact that you have the opportunity to speak to God and you're creating a relationship with Him. That's it, you achieved what you needed to achieve. Everything else now is a bonus. And if you get what you needed, what you asked for, alhamdulillah, then your will was aligned with Allah's will. And you knew it was good for you. And if you didn't, you have to trust Him that it wasn't good for you. And that's what it means to really believe in God. You're tested.
Thank you, Sayyid. Nice comprehensive answer. I promise I'm not keeping the mic to myself. These are questions are not from me. Seems that some of the brothers are quite shy to ask questions themselves as well. So this is one from the brothers. We have iftar every night as a community. Seeing that people around the world are suffering and don't have food to even break their fast, what would our responsibilities be? Do we have our priorities mixed up?
So of course, we should be thinking of those that don't have food and are less fortunate than us on these nights. If we're not, then we have our priorities mixed up. That doesn't mean though that I'm not allowed to enjoy anything in my life if someone else is suffering. The idea is I must remember them. I must remember them. So I can have iftar, of course not an extravagant iftar, whether people are hungry or not, I shouldn't be having that. I have iftar and I think of those less fortunate than me, and that's in the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam when he says, where he says that the ghani and faqir through fasting become equal. The ghani and faqir, the one who is in poverty and one who is wealthy. And understand in Sharia, ghani is someone who has enough to last him the year. Enough food and drink to last him the year. And even if we don't have the food and drink, we have enough assets that we can sell to last us the year, food and drink. So we're all wealthy pretty much here. All of us are regarded wealthy. So it's yearly in Islamic Sharia. Whereas the faqir has nothing. The maskeen is the one who has nothing for the day. A lot of masakin now in Palestine. So we have to think of them. Now, as for our role, there is no contradiction between eating iftar and our role to help our brothers and sisters. There's no contradiction between that. So I can eat iftar and do what I need to do for my family and help them. You want to say something?
I think the gist of the question is we maybe spend a fair bit of money trying to serve iftar for the whole community.
Oh, okay.
Rather than us individually eating iftar. There are a lot of people who donate to feeding all of us. Should that money not be better spent on trying to...
Look, this is an eternal question because people do this all the time with everything. So it's never either or. Like, should there be so much gold in the shrines of the Imams? Or shouldn't we give that to the poor? Should we do this? It's the same question again and again. And it's never either or. How about you sell your iPhone and then donate that? You know, I can do that with everything. You know, so let's not do that. We should give everything to the shrine and we should feed the brothers and sisters of iftar because it's recommended. And I should donate to the poor. You know, there's no contradiction at all. People ask this always in so many ways and they're not leading it by example themselves. What I would say is, do your part, you know your capacity, do your part. I live in South Lebanon. I know what I'm doing over there. I try my best to be in the village, to do whatever I can to feed the people in the village. At the end of the day though, I come home and I bring a chicken home to my wife and kid to eat. I'm not going to not bring them a chicken because no one else has a chicken. I'm going to bring them food. So I'm going to do my part. There's no contradiction. I'm going to do my part for my family, my friends. I'll invite them. At the same time, I need to look out for those people who don't have anything. Now, the priorities need to be, yes, put in place. Like, for example, if I can help 1,000 families, I would help 1,000 families rather than help 100. So, let's say I had $10,000 of donations. I would try as much as I can to allocate 200 here, 200 here, 200 here, rather than 2,000 here and 2,000 here. So it's about how to smartly do it. Just before I came, I took a food box worth about $150 to a family in Lebanon. And it was just bags of lentils and rice. And the kids ran to the box like it was toys and were playing with the bag so happy that they had this food finally. And the dad cried. And these people, they're not used to being poor. They are respectable people. They're not used to this. And now they're going through this. So then I'm like, okay, if I could do this with $100, so imagine what I could do with $1,000. I'm doing that for 10 families with $1,000. Or I can go and get a few steaks for $500 and feed a few people. No, I won't do that. You see what I'm trying to say? So it's about priorities. Of course, you must know them. But not to a level where you are now refraining to the point that you're suffocating yourself. You live normal. At the same time, you help everyone. But also, let's not always try to throw the bag of hypocrisy on everyone else. Like, let me lead by example in what I'm doing. Let me try to feed people. Let me donate to the shrine and donate to these people and medical services and food distribution and still invite people for iftar. It's okay. I can do all of them.
We'll go one last question, inshallah.
There's a young boy at the back as well. He's been putting his hand up for a while. Thank you.
Earlier on you said that the Laylatul Qadr nights are spread out on the 19th, 21st and 23rd. But if the Quran was revealed on the Laylatul Qadr nights, how could it be spread out on 3 nights?
Ahsant. So the Quran was revealed on the Qadr night, not in the form that we have it right now, in the book form, because that was revealed over 20 years, right? So that wasn't on one night. but the Quran was revealed in one night into the heart of the Prophet. And what you can understand from that is either it was revealed on the big night, the final night, which is 23rd, as understood as one night, or it was revealed on the 19th, 21st, and 23rd, on each night into the heart of the Prophet. Both of those don't contradict, there is no problem. So Allah gave the revelation, the Prophet received the revelation on 19th, 21st, 23rd, or he received it all on 23rd. Either one of those two could be the answer.
Do you have time for a few more questions?
I'm fine, yes, of course.
Assalamu alaikum, respected Sheikh again. Might be a bit controversial. We know that Surah Baqarah tells us about fasting. And we know the narrations turn around and say that fasting is forgiven for those who are sick, traveling, under certain circumstances, and for children. And one of the things I've seen growing up in a community, especially in the summer months, is when a child is 6 years old, we got to understand that the Prophet, peace be upon him, has said a child should not be fasting. And they come up at 7 o'clock and they say to Mama, I'm thirsty, because we've got to train them, right? But they say, I'm thirsty, and parents are like, oh, you've only got a couple of hours to go. Is that not going against the will of Allah?
Yes.
This is what I want to ask you.
Yeah, sure. So I would say there are levels on what tarbiyah means, tarbiyah of nurturing your child. And so the child, it's not wajib on him to fast or to pray. And like you said, we want to train them from a young age. So then now it depends a lot on the tactics of the parents. So the idea here is not now about Sharia, because we all know Sharia doesn't say that. It's about tactics of the parents. So we can all disagree or agree about it. Of course, I would say that's not very reasonable to try to force a 6-year-old child to refrain from food or drink for hours when they're saying they're thirsty. And what I would suggest is we can train them, but with more mercy in terms of, here you go, you can drink, and then let's try to do our best to hold on for another hour, and then drink again, and then hold on for another hour. Because at 6, it's a different capacity to 7, different capacity to 8. So every year I can try to increase it slowly, the intensity, slowly increase it. But there's no need to go so hardcore on our kids, you know. And the best way to do that is obviously by leading by example. When your kids see you and how strong-willed the father or the mother is, they usually have that. So actually, I find in my experience, I'm always trying to convince kids to drink or to eat because they're feeling weak, but they're like, no, never, I will never do it. And they remember like Imam Hussain or something like this. And I'm like, listen, Allah doesn't want this, drink, you know, because I'm worried about them, like 10 years old, 9 years old. So I've had the opposite experience, which is beautiful. It's nice as well, but also can be a little bit dangerous for the kids. So subhanAllah, I think this is about the tarbiyah of the parent. And there are so many books that I would recommend when it comes to training your kids that we can apply to Islamic teachings. And one of those is the book you wish your parents read. This is a really good book that I have found to be so beneficial and in line with a lot of Islamic traditions on how we are to raise our children. And it's something that I think can be incorporated into teaching them how to fast and pray as well.
Salam, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
I wanted to ask, last night you were saying how we need to open our heart and let go. How can we do that?
Very good question. So, this is the deepest question from the littlest man. Ahsant. So, this question about letting go. Notice how we always think that for Allah to love us, we must constantly do more. I need to do more, perform more, try harder, doing more and more a'mal, reading more. And as I'm doing more, I get lost in what I'm even doing. I forget the relationship dynamics of a creation and creator and my Lord. And I think that I have the power to do it. And I think this is most reflected in addictions. Okay? So you might not understand this right now, but a lot of grown-ups, they have a lot of issues that they can't always stop. And they try to stop them, but then they always end up going back to it. May Allah save us all from addictions, any type of addiction. But addictions are attachments. And you'll notice people, they just can't stop. If you've ever been addicted to anything, you can't stop this thing. You try for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it comes back to you. And you think, Ya Allah, save me from this. Ultimately, I have found that the best solution for all of this, for someone who is God-fearing, is when they say, Lord, I have no power to stop myself from this addiction, and you have all the power. You do it for me. You do it for me. Of course, there are going to be steps, practical steps and techniques that we're going to teach this person. I have a course that I use for people with addictions, and I teach them these 1, 2, 3 steps, how to stop from addictions, anything that gives you dopamine, to stop from that. But there's a way of faith that the man of faith has that other people don't have, which is when you let go. When you say it's not about you trying to fight it, it's about you letting go and allowing Allah to fight it for you. And that's a level, the highest level. And it's hard to conceptualize when you haven't experienced it yet. But if you're able to do it on the Qadr nights, you literally then have Allah read the dua for you. Allah takes you through it. He takes you by the hand. When you basically ultimately are admitting that you're nothing. And that's the hardest thing for anyone to admit. That's why we hold grudges. We hold grudges because how can someone do that to me? But when there is no more me, when it's just you, and Lord, khalas, I accept my place. I accept my place of creation. I accept that I don't know everything. I accept that you created me. You want this from me. I accept that I'm yours. I belong to you. I accept. That means I let go and I'll do what you need of me. At that moment, you become Abdullah. You become nothing. The moment you become nothing, you become everything. Everyone tries to be somebody when the whole point of life was to become nobody. When you become nobody, then Allah makes you the actual somebody. But you really have to look away from dunya completely. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises you in the ranks of the people. That's the only way. But as long as you try to raise yourself in the ranks of the people, you will never be the highest level and version of yourself that you could have been. That's what it means to let go.
Hassan, this will be the final question, inshallah, from the sisters. Will you get the same reward reciting dua and Quran in English as well as in Arabic? Is it the same reward?
So the reward aspect is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is one of those things we have to change our worldview. As in, what do we mean by this? Do we mean if I read it in Arabic I get 10 points, and if I read it in English I get 7 points? You know, is this how like Allah is treating it? I don't think so. I don't think Allah is giving me more points if I read it in Arabic. I think He gives me points, if I'm going to even think about points that way. He's rewarding me for my intention. However, I would say that you will never truly experience the Quran properly except in Arabic. So it's for you. You have to understand religion is not about trying to increase points as much as it is about becoming someone. So to become someone, Allah said the Arabic language is necessary because it's the most sophisticated language, the language of the Quran. And so He found this experience of the Quran to be had authentically through Arabic, which by the way is not super challenging. You know, you can do it within a year. I've taken loads of courses with different people. I couldn't read or write Arabic when I was 20 years old. So I'm Lebanese, but I didn't know Arabic by birth. I used to mess up a lot. I didn't know anything. You know, I've got so many jokes right now, but they're so inappropriate. I can't even say them. About all the things I used to say and mess up with, right? So imagine, I didn't know how to write or read or anything. And I remember when I started, I was 21, and I bought a lot of kids' books. I started with kids' books. So Jamila wal Wahsh, Beauty and the Beast in Arabic. I would read kids' books to see how they would bring sentences together. I would underline any word I didn't know, have a dictionary in Arabic, and then I would define the word and put it in. I'm from London, man. I was born and raised in Tottenham, and I'm a London boy. And so my parents used to speak. I speak English at home. I at 21 I learned Arabic, and I would watch TV in Arabic so I can train my ear without subtitles. So I remember I used to watch Mukhtar and Nabi Yusuf in Arabic when they speak Fusha, and then SpongeBob and cartoons just so I can get by and just try to train my ear and read kids' books and do all these things. So I know it can be done because when I was 20 years old, It was the first time I sat in a Quran circle in Ramadan in Maidaville, and it was all kids, 9 years old, and I was there 20 years old, and I couldn't read the Quran. I only read it in English. So it's more than possible. It can be done in 6 to 12 months. There's only a set amount of words in the Quran that are used again and again in different forms. Maybe 300 to 400 words. If you learn and memorize those, you've got most of the Quran down. And it's not as hard as you might think it is. So reading it in its authentic Arabic is something that will become a different experience for you, and you will grow from it. You yourself will grow. You will become someone else. So the world view of what religion does for us, I think we need to refigure that. I'm doing all of these a'mal not so I can have more points. It's not a game. I'm doing this to become. Even if you did one dua in English, and you pondered over the verse, and it made you turn into someone else, that's better than reading all the du'as and finishing the whole Quran. It's about becoming.
Thank you very much for your time,
Thank you.
Sayyid. And inshallah, the questions and answers have helped the brothers prepare for the upcoming nights of Qadr. Can we thank the Sayyid with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad?